is Rich from Over the Fender Garage. You know, I'm just sitting here in my 67 Chevelle station wagon, taking a look at it, and you know, I really hate rolling up and down these manual windows, so I'm going to convert them to power windows without buying anything but electric motors. Got the window crank right here, and what I've got is I've got a universal power window. It's made for older cars, but you might have to put the left one on the right side, the right one on the left side. It all depends on how it fits in there. But first of all, you want to make sure it's going to fit. And this one fits pretty good right here. I might have to cut out this little corner right here to make space for the motor itself. But it looks like it's going to fit in there pretty good. I may have to trim out this piece right here. But the main thing you want to do is find where your back half sits, where the gears are at, to make sure that it's going to fit in here and it's not going to hit anything as you're cranking. Grab your handle and run it through it to make sure you don't have anything hitting back there. This one works really good. And that's got the wing window, so you got to make sure that you're not going to hit anything in the wing window area. But I think this one's going to work really good. And you want to take note of how the backer's sitting, so you get your motor in the right orientation. Because if you don't know where that's sitting, you might end up like that. Might end up like that. But general range like that should work out pretty good. Now I have my general estimate of where it's going to go. It kind of sits in the window like this, a little bit of an angle. And you see, this is going to sit right there, but behind. So you need to take this off. So we need to get rid of that spring. These suckers are under a lot of tension, so you got to be careful with that. But you get the spring out of the way, because if you don't do that and you remove this first, that little arm is going to come after your fingers. You won't know what hit you. But you got to remove that first, and then we'll remove this. We'll make a bracket for that to sit on like that. And it's nice because this little pin will fit right down in this area. If you can keep this without ruining it, you get that whole thing down in that area. I've got it locked in my vise, so it can't go nowhere. And just grab a normal pair of vice grips. Big ones are better for it, but you just grab a hold of the spring. Grab that spring like that. See, clamp like this. And thread that on there. It'll pop off this little arm it's on. You just want to have it on there so it does not fly out at you. Just like that. Safety first when it comes to fingers. And just grab your vice grips and gently take it off there. Just like that. And now it's got enough off of it. And take the clamp out of the way and pull it off there, just like that. I like to mark these right and left, and which is the front, just so you don't get them mixed up, because you can take them and make them tighter if you want or whatnot. So just mark the front and which side it came off of. It's a good idea to do. Now we need to remove these rivets. 1, 2, and 3. And that crank handle will safely come off there now. Of course, that one wants to spin. just like that. Out of the way, what we need to do is make a spot for this to sit down in there. The motor sits in that direction, just like that. But we got to make room for this, because if you don't, it's sitting above it. So what we need to do is cut this piece off and make spot marked right here. I put this with some black markers so it's easier to see. And we need to clean out about that much of the hole for that gear so it doesn't hit anything. And I just use one of these little bits right here. Work real nice. Now we take our motor, stick her up in there. Look at that, lots of room. So now on to making the bracket to mount the motor to. Got our hole all cleaned up. Motor fits in there like that. I've created a template for that motor. Fits on here just like this. Stick it up in there, that's it. And kind of position the motor to however you want it. But keep in mind, you gotta watch out for these bolts. Either one of these bolts has to clear the bracket. It's not really a big deal because you can grind off the little edges wherever you need to get in there. And then we can get it in there and set the height. But we just gotta make this piece of metal right here that go on the back. This little bracket will go right in here like that. Take our nail, pop it through there, put the first one through, like that. And then, good idea for the nail because of the head. You can stick it through the hole you already got. And make sure everything's lined up. And set it down. And pop that hole through. That way you're not popping your damn fingers. Pull it out, flip it over. Now they're both held in the same spot. Nobody's gonna move. And then take it again, your third nail, pop it through. And there you go, got a quick reference to your mounting points. Now, time to make the piece of metal so we can weld her up and have power windows. Make sure you give yourself some kind of reminder that this is the side you want to the backing plate. Otherwise, you get it wrong. But and then you do, this is the left-hand side, so this is left. You flip it over and put right on this side. Just the reverse. Like that. Staying away from where the nuts that are on the back side. So there's a clearance for those. And we'll weld that on there. And that's almost done. Alright, I got my little spacers made and stuck in there right now, and I'm going to tack weld them on. Just remember when welding to something like this is all galvanized metal. So you want to take precautions and not breathe them fumes. But this is just tack welded as far as I'm going to go until I get everything set up. So I just use this, but just put a light, quick tack on there, hold the nut on, and finish welding it after get the screws out. Just enough weld to hold them on there. It makes putting the window motor on and taking it off a lot easier. It's not required, but it does make life easier. All right, I've got a tap. It's not required, but if you got access to taps, it's just a good idea. Just run a tap through them really quick. Only takes a second, but it beats having a bolt binding up inside your freshly welded nut. And then when you go put it all together, put a little anti-seize on it, so later on it doesn't get seized in there. Got the motor stuck on here with grips, but you can see right there, that's where we'll tack weld it right there. We look on this side, so you got room in the regulator, room on the regulator. Got nice contact point on the teeth, so it's ready to be tack welded on there. Flip that over, make sure we stay centered. Like that. All right, now we'll just tack weld this together. There it is. You see? Got lots of clearance. Just like that. There you go. Now we can clean it up and finish welding it all. Want to be careful in this area that you don't get into where the teeth on the regulator go. Otherwise you'll have to clean that up. Flip it over. Here's your welded bracket for your new power windows. Welded on both sides. Depending on the weight of your windows, you might have to add a couple extra brackets on here, but for 90% of them you don't. But it works great. We try a little pre-assembly here. It's all welded up. You see my gears are far enough away. It's not going to hit the regulator on that part. Take my power window. Get this started here. And these are just number 10 screws, but on different applications, you want to watch out on running these screws down, because like on this one, I have to trim them off a little bit, but not too much. But there you go. There's the motor bolted on. No problems. Nice gear contact. So now the next part is, if you got this off nice and cleanly, you could take this piece, and it's not mandatory, but you take this piece right here and weld it back on right there, and that way it supports the gear on the window. Maybe because I got mine off nice. I got my little gear support right here all cleaned up, ready to weld. And I'm going to get it in here like this. I want to make sure to try to push it that way, so you're not pushing it down into the teeth, so it's got a little bit of movement. You don't want it to bind up on them gears. But I'll get it in about right there, and we'll get it tacked, and then we'll finish weld it with the motor out. Just like that. And we'll take the motor back out and we'll finish welding around there. So now the bearing supporting the gear, everything's done. All we got to do is install it. Nice. Now the motor can't flop around. It's got a support. All ready to go back inside the car. Good idea to paint all this stuff, since it is galvanized, and you just took all the galvanizing off the sunspots welded, and this is not galvanized, so put a coat of paint on it. But go check the assembly, and that'll go together later on when we're finishing the car. Alright, we got the motor all done here. It's all pre-assembled, ready to go in for our test fit. And it goes motor side down. And get up in here like that. We got a bolt here. And said in the beginning, right here is going to have to be cut out. It's just hitting that spot, which I figured it would do. So we can chop that piece out real quick and finish fitting it in there. This up here. That one right there. Perfect. It's not hitting anything. Fits in there really nice. Now, wanted to, you take and flip this back over this way and weld it right back in like that. Puts the support back in the door. Or I could just take and make a piece of sheet metal that goes there, but the plug's right here. So I'm gonna have to trim off this little piece. Otherwise I won't be able to get a plug in there, or I can bend it, whichever, but having the plug right there, that's good. And then all I gotta do is pop a hole in the door and pop a hole in the rail there and run power to it. And now I have power windows in a 67 Chevelle station wagon. And now we got the front windows done, we can move to the back, see if it's even possible. That window sits almost right up against that regulator. So there is nowhere to get a power window motor on this on the inside. And I bought one of these newer model ones that's flat, like a pancake. And the only place you could put it would be on the outside. But then you guys cut the structure away from the door, and I don't want to do that. And the door lock and all that stuff is in the way. So back windows are going to stay manual. No, those won't work. So we're going to leave it manual, and we'll move on to the next part of the project.